Since my school years, I had a rival whom I strived to surpass in everything. Our rivalry covered different areas: relationships with girls, sports, cars. I always wanted to be better than him, but his rich father gave him an advantage. I graduated high school, went to college, got married. Everything seemed prosperous, but my life changed dramatically with the arrival of a new boss at the company where my wife worked. That boss turned out to be my longtime rival. Incarceration gave me time for introspection. My thoughts were consumed by an intense sense of hostility. I realized that I was possessed with contempt for my boss and ex-wife Martha, and I'd also felt deep self-loathing for my own naivete. My name is Jerry, and I admit that I was naive. This ignorance manifested itself in my lack of understanding of my wife's infidelity. The man she was cheating with turned out to be my despised childhood enemy, Andrew. I also failed to notice that my wife was carrying a child with him, assuming it was my child. This discovery caused me to seriously rethink our relationship. My earliest memories of feuding with Andrew go back to my childhood. Our first conflict arose when he made fun of my freckles. This triggered a series of fights that lasted until 8th grade. After that period, the physical confrontations stopped as Andrew recognized that he couldn't beat me. Instead, he began to undermine my reputation and embarrass me. From the early years of my rivalry with Andrew, his jealousy drove him to strive to surpass me academically. He excelled in science and literature, while my strengths were math and history. Our rivalry was not limited to academic achievement, extending also to the athletic arenas where I had a slight advantage. Andrew relentlessly sought ways to outdo me, leading to conflicts that nearly ended in my expulsion from school and arrest. He once placed a fart pillow on my chair, which provoked a chaotic scene in class. Despite his constant attempts to disadvantage me, I remained indifferent to most aspects of his superiority. However, his advances in his treatment of girls alarmed me. His profligate lifestyle and $50,000 BMW Z4 in 11th grade complicated my attempts to attract the attention of the opposite sex. Andrew not only dated cheerleaders and popular girls, but he also interfered in my relationships, which often brought them to an abrupt end. Rebecca always stood out to me among the other girls. I tried to keep my feelings for her a secret. However, despite my best efforts, Andrew managed to win her attention. His betrayal was especially painful when Rebecca accepted his invitation to the prom. I confronted her that night, returned the ring, and left her in tears, feeling betrayed. Seeking comfort and possible revenge, I turned to Deborah, who was considered Andrew's girlfriend. I asked her to prom, which unexpectedly led to their breakup. Deborah later shared with me that she had learned of Andrew's deception and expressed her desire for revenge against him. Despite my attempts to appear uninvolved, Deborah insisted on attending prom together. This decision led to an unexpected turn of events, giving the evening a special poignancy. The prom had become a significant event for me. Not only was I able to invite one of the most beautiful girls in the school, but she treated me with special warmth and attention. We walked into the hall together, causing astonishment in the other students who couldn't believe that Deborah had chosen me over Andrew. Andrew seemed puzzled and tried to separate Deborah and me throughout the evening, convincing her to join his table or dance with him. Deborah consistently rejected his advances, leaving Rebecca in tears. Although Deborah felt some sympathy for Rebecca, she made her choice after the prom. Andrew was relentless in his attempts to separate me from Deborah, but I realized that our bond was temporary. It was as if I had turned into Cinderella that night, and it brought unforgettable moments at the local motel with the prettiest girl in school. When Deborah kissed me goodbye, noting the wonderful time we had spent together, I headed home as if floating on a cloud. I realized that by Monday everything would be back to normal. Deborah and Andrew would probably be together. However, I loved Andrew's smirk every time we met in the hallway. Graduation night symbolized our imminent departure to different colleges, leaving behind hometown memories and fears of an unknown future. I had no regrets leaving Andrew behind. I managed to get into the Georgia Institute of Technology, while Andrew, thanks to his grandfather's influence, went to Harvard. At the institute, I chose to specialize in software engineering. During my freshman year, at a party, I met Martha. Despite her lack of flamboyance, compared to Deborah, Martha was smart and witty, which reminded me of Rebecca. Our relationship, which started off not too rough, soon grew into love and then marriage. We married 3 months after graduation, being friends rather than lovers. Our first years together were happy ones, although Martha did speed up the process of starting a family, something we had not previously talked about. Right after graduation, as soon as I got a job at a startup called Zaba Security Software, we started planning a family. The company was growing rapidly, and I was promised executive positions and significant wealth. However, an unexpected acquisition of a similar-sized company marked the beginning of my troubles in my 3rd year at Zaba. At the same time, Martha accidentally found a new job, getting a position as an office manager in the same company as me. Initially, our shared workplace did not cause problems. After all, we worked in different departments, but things took a different turn. After I got the position of a senior programmer in our company, the overall work went smoothly. I was responsible for overseeing projects and solving problems related to my team. The company was thriving, clients were happy, and our office, which we jokingly called the CPZ, was equipped with various computers and servers. Ashley, our administrative assistant, played a key role in managing deliveries, preparing correspondence, and keeping things organized. Things changed dramatically when word got out that our company was being purchased. The news came unexpectedly and was announced through the owner brother's attorney. The loss of the promised stock options made me angry. Despite this, I continued to focus on the professional qualities of my team. Ashley, struggling with personal insecurities due to her weight, remained an invaluable asset. The acquisition brought many unforeseen changes that I resolutely tried to deal with. The announcement of the purchase took me by surprise, and I didn't know how to adapt to the change. Martha, also confused and upset by the news, helped me remain patient and calm. The new owners appointed a senior vice president to oversee the transition, initially centered on the central office. Since I joined Zaba, the company has grown from 5 to more than 150 employees. I learned that the new corporate headquarters had assigned a person to start in the accounting department. On the second day, I discovered that Andrew, vice president of security software validation at Zaba, was managing the transition. It was soon learned that our salaries would be on the parent company's scale. My salary was to increase by $35,000, while Martha's salary anticipated a substantial increase of $155,000. Despite my internal doubts and cautionary signals, Martha convinced me that it was imprudent to give up our current positions, especially given the significant salary increase. She reminded me that Andrew's authority was limited to 6 months before he left. The change began with the hiring of 4 new programmers from Harvard who, despite their prestigious education, were no more experienced than our current staff. Their programming was weak and their arrogant attitudes were disturbing. These 4 began harassing Ashley, vacillating between sexual harassment and outright cruelty. Attempts to change their unacceptable behavior proved futile, especially when I was not around to monitor the situation. Although they seemed attentive to my comments, it was clear that they had no intention of changing their behavior. Their disruptive presence was not only affecting Ashley, but also the entire team's dynamics and overall performance. Without the authority to fire them because Andrew had brought them in, I was at an impasse. Realizing how much torment Ashley had endured, I decided to take action. Hiding in a closet near the kitchen, I was able to record their actions during the confrontation. I then offered them a choice: resign within 15 minutes or face police intervention. All 4 chose to resign, which brought relief and gratitude to Ashley. After they left, I assured Ashley of my regret for not intervening sooner and asked her to report any incidents immediately in the future. She expressed her deep gratitude and admitted that she had thought about quitting but was hesitant for fear of losing a good job. In a follow-up meeting, Ashley showed increased appreciation for me. When Andrew called me into his office because the programmers had been fired, I refused to rehire them, armed with evidence of their misconduct. I warned of possible lawsuits against foreign parties, the parent company, and Andrew himself. This revelation made Andrew think. I smiled and eventually gave in, trying not to be intimidated by the unknown of all the details. That evening, however, I realized that Andrew had been dishonest. When Martha got home, she scolded me for being rude to Andrew, thinking I was a fool for threatening our boss. At that moment, I must have sensed deception on Andrew's part as my inner gut was screaming danger. Even though things seemed to normalize at home, I brushed the incident aside. By the end of the day, I still believed that Martha loved only me. If I had listened to my intuition, maybe I wouldn't be in jail right now. but my foolishness had allowed Andrew and my wife to lull me into a false sense of security. 2 months after the merger, nothing had changed between Martha and me. I later learned that Unity Software Purchasing Company was about the same size as ours and mostly worked on government contracts. Contrary to my assumptions, Andrew's father did not own this company. Their family fortune was built on selling pipes and telegrams when Andrew was in college. I couldn't deny his competence. He effectively merged the companies in just 8 weeks and convinced the board to keep the Zaba name because of its better reputation. I kept warning Martha about him, but she dismissed my concerns, writing them off as jealousy. In the 4th month of our lives, Martha announced that she was pregnant. Despite my initial joy, our sex life deteriorated, our lunches together stopped, and Martha stopped traveling to work with me. The turning point came one morning when Martha told me frankly at home that she had fallen in love with Andrew and that their feelings were mutual. I struggled to keep my composure as she ruthlessly recounted her affair. Longing overwhelmed me, but I held back, trying to convince her to realize the situation by mentioning our unborn child. She, on the other hand, argued that the child was not mine. The devastation was overwhelming, but I kept remarkably calm and decided not to leave the house. Martha left, leaving me in a nightmarish situation. The revelation of my wife's infidelity had shattered me, but now I realized Andrew's true intentions as well. Fueled by rage, I confronted Andrew at work and lashed out at him. Despite the altercation, I decided to quit, packed my belongings, and my world crumbled further when the police arrived and arrested me. Expecting a grim fate, I reached out to Ashley for help, but unfortunately she was unavailable, leaving me in a state of anger and uncertainty. Sitting in my cell, I was consumed with thoughts of revenge and betrayal. As the day passed, I realized that Andrew had a plan and my problems were just beginning. The charges revealed my weak defense, a young and ill-prepared public defender. I firmly proclaimed my innocence. I breathed a sigh of relief when the judge set bail at $2,500, which could be posted in cash or check. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough cash and I don't usually carry checks. I apologized to the judge, explaining that I could not meet the bail requirements. I asked about the possibility of contacting a bail bondsman, and the judge assured me that my clerk would help with that and give me a court date before moving on to the next case. A voice sounded behind me offering to post bail. Turning around, I saw Ashley waving her checkbook. Her presence in the courtroom surprised and touched me, especially her willingness to help. I was very grateful to her, promising to return the money as soon as I could withdraw it from the ATM. I gratefully accepted her offer, and she handed me a check as we left the courtroom. Ashley expressed sympathy, noticing my swollen cheek. She said that finances didn't bother her and that it didn't compare to the pain Martha's betrayal had caused. As the conversation continued, Ashley voiced her opinion of my wife's actions, calling them foolish and a big mistake considering Martha had chosen Andrew over me. I smiled and thanked her for her kindness. At that moment, a young man approached me, confirming my name as Jerry, and handed me an envelope, informing me that I had been officially notified. This message made me feel the weight of another emotional blow, given the speed with which Andrew and Martha had apparently planned this whole thing. I suggested that Ashley go get something to eat after I withdrew some money from the ATM. However, my attempt to access the account was unsuccessful as all my accounts were frozen. Upon calling the bank, I learned that the freeze was in effect until a court order. I also learned that my savings account and credit cards were frozen and I only had $126 left in my wallet. It turns out that Martha and Andrew had frozen all of my money. I expressed uncertainty about what to do next, but offered to at least buy Ashley dinner. She insisted that I not spend the money and invited me to her house for dinner that she would make for both of us. I accepted Ashley's invitation and appreciated her generosity during dinner. Feeling guilty, I complained about the pain in my fingers. Ashley offered me pain medication, explaining that she had bought it for root canal treatment. I was grateful for the relief. Frustrated, I confessed that I felt completely overwhelmed and unable to even think about retaliating against Andrew or Martha, as it could backfire on me. Ashley shared her family history, revealing that her mother left her father for another man. She advised me not to waste my life seeking revenge by mentioning her father's regrets. Although I recognized her point of view, the anger still smoldered within me. After cleaning up the dishes, I mentioned my plans to find a cheap motel for the night. Ashley objected immediately, insisting that I spend the night at her place since she had a spare bedroom and it wouldn't be intrusive. Reluctantly, I accepted her offer, recognizing that it was a bright spot in my bleak situation. The next morning, Ashley called me and informed me that I had been fired. She instructed me to write an email to HR with my address for my last paycheck. Shirley, the human resources manager, explained that the company might not be required to pay for vacation and sick leave, but it should be mentioned in the letter. Despite Shirley's doubts, I mentioned the court order freezing my accounts in the letter. Ashley advised me to act quickly before Andrew or Martha realized what I was undertaking. Following her advice, I received confirmation that I would receive a check for $4,257 in a couple of days. The paperwork also mentioned a check for the state's vacation and sick pay loss. Despite the difficulties, I considered the almost $5,000 a success. Ashley told me that Andrew was absent that day, and Martha was furious that I had, in her opinion, violated her personal relationship. We both found something amusing about it, and I decided to stay at Ashley's until I got my check. In the meantime, I was actively job hunting, updating my resume and looking for new job opportunities. Unfortunately, I learned that Andrew and Martha had blacklisted me in the cybersecurity field, suggesting my potential felony conviction. When the check arrived, I handed it to Ashley so she could deposit it into her account and avoid the risk of having her funds frozen. Ashley expressed her desire for me to stay with her until I found a job, and I agreed, appreciating her practical advice. I hired an attorney with a $2,000 down payment and found him to be an extremely helpful assistant. He immediately filed a petition to release my assets from the freeze, allowing me to maintain a basic lifestyle and cover my legal fees. After living in Ashley's apartment for 8 days, I decided it was time to move. I found another apartment in the same complex, put down the required deposit that Saturday, and with Ashley's help, purchased everything I needed. That night I took Ashley out to dinner at Olive Garden. I watched Ashley closely, noticing that the extra weight she was carrying seemed to be affecting her self-esteem. I told her about the gym at our apartment complex and expressed interest in working out together. Ashley was hesitant, fearful of being seen with someone who could potentially get into legal trouble. I assured her that everything would be fine, and we agreed to regular gym visits 4 times a week at 6 in the morning, despite her initial concerns about possible social stigma. Ashley attended the gym regularly while I actively sought a job in cybersecurity. My attorney warned me of a possible conviction in connection with my assault case. He argued that my actions may have been motivated by blind rage over my wife's infidelity, which could be considered a mitigating factor. When the day of the trial came, Ashley gave me crucial support by accompanying me. Upon learning that Judge Parker would be trying us, my attorney recommended requesting a closed-door trial, emphasizing the judge's disapproval of the cheaters. During the trial, the prosecutor skillfully presented 3 witnesses to the assault. My attorney cross-examined them, identifying inconsistencies in their testimony. When Andrew testified, he denied throwing punches and falsely described his relationship with my wife. I recounted to the court the events leading up to the incident, expressing shock at my wife's betrayal. I stated my loss of self-control, emphasizing the emotional turmoil I had experienced. The prosecutor tried to challenge my recollection, but my sincere confusion convinced those present. Judge Parker declared me not guilty on the grounds of temporary insanity caused by betrayal. Andrew's reaction was full of displeasure, and the judge warned him of contempt of court. Although I still craved revenge, realizing the need to avoid jail, I left those thoughts outside the courtroom. Andrew threatened to sue me, but my attorney insisted that I focus only on covering medical expenses not covered by insurance. Andrew never responded, and the court victory lifted my spirits for 9 weeks. After a life-altering revelation from my wife, who was still harboring resentment, I took Ashley out to dinner to share the exciting news. The meeting was held at a cozy Italian restaurant. I noticed that Ashley had lost a lot of weight and looked gorgeous in her elegant dress. I expressed my admiration and appreciation to Ashley for her positive changes. The restaurant we went to was small and cozy, exactly the kind of place couples choose for dates. However, I didn't see this meeting in that light. It was just a meeting between 2 close friends. I took Ashley out to dinner to celebrate my victory in court and to share the news that I had found a job. "That's fantastic." Ashley rejoiced when I informed her that I would be working at Cybel Security in Jacksonville, Florida. "I didn't know they had an office here," she expressed concern. I explained that I would have to move to Jacksonville. To my surprise, the light in Ashley's eyes dimmed and tears rolled down her cheeks. In confusion, I mentioned that I thought she would be happy for me. "I'm glad you got the job," Ashley said through her tears, but added, "You'll be 600 miles away from me." I reminded her of her advice to not let my wife's betrayal overwhelm me with hatred. Ashley nodded, and I explained that the best way for me to heal was to put some distance between Martha and me. Ashley wiped her eyes and said she understood, but would miss me. "I really enjoyed having a friend," she added, trying to cheer me up. I assured her that I would be one phone call away. It surprised me how strongly Ashley reacted, and I realized that she might not have many friends to ease her loneliness. I suggested that she come visit me in Jacksonville. She hesitated, asking if I could invite her. "Sure," I quickly replied, reminding her that I wouldn't have any friends there either. Ashley asked about my departure date, and I informed her that I was leaving in 45 days. However, I had a lot to do before I left: finding a place to live, opening a new bank account, taking a lie detector test, getting fingerprinted, and other tests. I estimated it would take at least 2 trips to Jacksonville to get everything sorted out. Although my mood improved slightly after our discussion, I noticed that Ashley wasn't eating much and was becoming increasingly sad as the time of my departure approached. On my last night in town, Ashley made a delicious dinner and a chocolate cake that said, "I'll miss you." After helping each other clean up, we spent the evening watching TV until it was time to go to bed. To my surprise, she kissed me goodnight and I headed to the guest room. In the middle of the night, I felt the bed move and Ashley slid in beside me. We shared a passionate moment. She expressed her happiness and asked if I could sleep with her in her bed that night. I happily agreed to make that night unforgettable. After a heartfelt goodbye and a passionate kiss, I left for Jacksonville. Looking back in the rearview mirror, I saw Ashley sitting on the side of the road sobbing. This departure was hard, but I knew it was the right decision. Although I still loved Martha, thoughts of revenge were gone. Instead, I felt a deep sadness. Jacksonville proved to be an interesting city, but my attention was focused on my new job, where I spent many hours trying not to think about Martha. I kept in touch with Ashley, who always seemed happy to hear from me and sad when our conversations ended. Eventually, Ashley broke the news to me that Martha and Andrew had gotten married. The divorce was finalized and Martha had a baby girl. Oddly enough, this news didn't really excite me. Perhaps I was beginning to get over the resentment and humiliation associated with Martha. Ashley came to stay with me for 4 days, all the while we carefully skirted the issue of our relationship and sex. The last 2 nights were almost as intense as the first time. About a year later, I had the opportunity to hire an administrative assistant for my team at Sable Security. Given the significant size of the company, with 6 cybersecurity teams, me progressing from a regular team member to team leader gave me the power to decide who to hire. I immediately reached out to Ashley. She quickly expressed interest in the job, and when I picked her up at the airport, she looked so stunning that she caught everyone's attention. But all she wanted was to be with me. She threw herself into my arms with such passion that my knees trembled. Ashley planned to stay with me until she found an apartment. I had originally thought it would only take a week, but the search for a suitable place to live had dragged on for weeks due to constant problems with every option being considered. Despite these difficulties, I did not complain as our living together was enjoyable. During the year and a half in Jacksonville, thoughts of Martha gradually faded away and Ashley took her place in my thoughts. However, I realized that sooner or later Ashley would move away, and that inevitable day was scaring me. 5 weeks later, I decided to inquire about the status of her apartment search, and Ashley suddenly burst into tears. I apologized, not sure what exactly I had said to upset her so much. "I'm sorry, did I say something wrong? Do you want me to leave?" Ashley asked timidly. "Hell no," I stated firmly. "I'd like you to stay forever, but I realize that one day they'll want to leave. I need time to prepare. I'd ask you to marry me, but you're too good for me," Ashley objected. "No, that's not true. I've loved you almost since the day I started working at Zaba. I'd marry you in a heartbeat," I admitted. This revelation changed everything for us. That same day, we bought rings and started planning our wedding. Despite my fears that Ashley might end up leaving for someone else, my love for her motivated me to take the risk. 6 months later, we were married, and a year after the wedding, Ashley gave birth to a baby boy we named Mikey. A few months later, a girl named Charlotte was added to our family. At the time, my career at Sable Security was still going strong, and I ended up leading all 8 cybersecurity teams by Christmas. 3 years later at a meeting, I learned of Sable's plans to acquire Zaba Security Software. I was put on the team that did the due diligence before the deal was finalized. Over the years, Ashley's mother passed away and my parents retired and moved to Jacksonville to be close to their grandchildren. Taking advantage of the week-long business trip, I planned to use Ashley's administrative skills to help with my investigation so we could spend time together enjoying long lunches and secretly have a good time during our week in Nashville. I discovered important things. The Zaba facility was the only cybersecurity location where Andrew held the position, Chief Operating Officer, and Martha held the position of Senior Project Manager. Zaba's Christmas party was scheduled for Friday night. I had no contact with Andrew, and I hadn't seen Martha all week. That all changed to the Christmas party held at the Hilton Doubletree Hotel in downtown Nashville. Tables were lined up along the dance floor and a 5-piece band occupied one corner, playing soft Christmas music that Martha danced to throughout the evening. Andrew, Martha, and the senior staff at Zaba gave a warm welcome to our team from Sable Security. Despite my misgivings, the meeting went smoothly. Andrew acknowledged past disagreements, and when he was introduced to Ashley, his smile faded. Martha, on the other hand, approached me warmly, commenting on my appearance and expressing her admiration for Ashley. During the course of the conversation, Martha mentioned that she had a daughter named Tammy and a son named Andrew Jr. Ashley and I, in turn, shared news about our children. Ashley and I danced through the evening, reflecting on the warmth of slow dancing and the joy we found in finding love after heartbreak. Suddenly, Martha came up and asked me for a dance. Ashley playfully gave her permission. During the dance, Martha sincerely apologized for the past, explaining the circumstances that led to our breakup. I reciprocated, acknowledging my initial sadness but expressing gratitude for the happiness I had found with Ashley and our children. Martha acknowledged Andrew's manipulative nature and expressed regret at her leaving me. We openly discussed our lives and Martha escorted me back to our table, thanking Ashley for letting her borrow me for the dance. The evening ended with a joke from Ashley warning me not to leave her, and we realized that life had really taken a positive turn since we had gone through the grief with Martha. And so we come to the end of this story. Please post your opinions in the comments. We'd love to hear them. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and put a like if you enjoyed it. We wish you good luck.
Thank you so much for watching my video and your time. Please subscribe to my channel and click on the bell button. Also, I am very interested to know your personal opinion about this story. You can write it in the comments. I will definitely answer you personally.